Have you ever wished that there was a way to stay calm even when your teen is shutting down, emotions are running high, or stress feels completely overwhelming? What if there was a science backed technique that could help you shift from chaos to clarity in just a couple of minutes a day? Well, today's guest, Barb Fletcher, is here to answer those questions and more. Barb is a certified HeartMath coach and stress mastery educator who helps people experience stress in a whole new way. Her superpower is translating cutting edge science into simple, practical tools that actually fit into our real lives. Whether she's working with overwhelmed parents or high performing teams, Barb's mission is the same: to help you feel more in control, more connected, and more resilient, no matter what life throws your way. Get ready to learn what coherence really means, why it matters, and how you can start using it today to transform tension into connection. So let's dive in. Barb, I'm so excited for you to be with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm always grateful for an opportunity to talk about stress and power up people with tools that will, in fact, do just what you said, change their life.
I know. I love that so much. And we have so much stress and anxiety in the world. So we definitely need this information. So, first of all, tell us a little bit about your background and how you got to be this heart math educator. What is heart math? Tell us some of that stuff.
So I spent 35 years working for the province in New Brunswick. I live in Canada. And throughout that career, I developed all kinds of stress and it presented itself in my body. I developed something called TMJ,
Mm.
which is jaw pain, and the dentist prescribed a guard for me to wear at night, and I quickly chewed through one, and then I chewed through a second one, and then I chewed through a third one, and when I went back for number 4, he said, I think the next step is we're gonna break your jaw and wire it shut, and for 6 weeks, you will eat with a straw." And I
Mm.
was like, maybe I need to take some personal responsibility for the stress that I'm
Mm.
experiencing. And so that really catapulted me into this journey of finding ways and tools to actually be well. And so when I finished up that long career 7 years ago, I then decided that I could play. And that's exactly what I do now. I help people who are experiencing stress and help them find an easier way. One of the
Mm.
reasons that I chose HeartMath was there is more than 30 years of peer-reviewed science, which all kinds of techniques out there at the same time, they're not all science-based. And I knew that the people I had worked with, I had been in healthcare, were likely to say, okay, show me why this really works. And
Mhm.
so the science behind it resonated with me, and hence this career, the encore career, became a reality. And so HeartMath is really about intelligent energy management. And so,
Mm.
what does that mean? It's about really understanding what happens to us throughout the day, what experiences and emotions actually add energy to us, and which ones actually may drain if we had an internal battery drain us. And so, through self regulation, quieting the nervous system, we're able to more effectively manage our energy so that at the end of the day, we still have some energy for those that matter around us, and perhaps actually get to enjoy life in a very different way.
Mm. Why is it called heart math? Tell me about that. Like, is there like some adding or subtracting, or what is the math part?
No, it the focus is really around heart, and so it's It's the self-regulation and the messages that are going back and forth between the brain and the heart. And interesting enough, there are more messages that go from the heart to the brain than from the brain to the heart. And
Mm,
so that one's really important because we've all said to somebody, just calm down. And they may
mhm,
think in their head, I'm going to calm down. It's okay. I'm going to be fine. But our body is doing something very different. And that's because our heart is involved. So when we actually feel into that emotion, what we're able to do is actually find that smooth space, that nervous system that's now been geared up to be the most effective it can be for the particular day.
mm. And so tell us what coherence is then. Is that meaning like how these are aligned or how they work together or where does coherence come in?
So if you think about having four people in a boat paddling, and they're all paddling in the same direction in sync. That's really what coherence is about. It's about being in the flow. It's about using the energy we have in any given day in the most effective way possible. So if
Mm,
in that same boat we had two people in the middle and they weren't in sync, and we wouldn't get nearly as far as we
mhm,
might as if we are in coherence. And so we're able to actually visually see what coherence looks like with a biofeedback that we can clip onto our ear, and we can actually see what the heart is doing. And so
mm,
when we're in that incoherent state, we'll see all kinds of jagged movements in our heart, which is measuring heart rate variability. And when we're in a coherent state, we'll see nice, smooth oscillations. And sometimes that biofeedback serves as a useful tool to help people remember what it feels like to be in coherence. Because if we've been out of sync for a very long time, we don't really remember what it feels like to be good, feel good.
mhm. Well, I was just thinking about because I was in education for 31 years, and there were many kids that came from a chaotic home where I'm not sure they ever knew what,
Mhm.
anti or no chaos was like their whole life. There was just this chaos going on. And so I could see something like that where maybe they're learning for the first time what does it feel like to be calm or in sync, and I could see how the visual of watching that or seeing that would be helpful for them so much. Now, is that what you do in your practice, is actually do biofeedback, or is that just like an example of how we could figure out if how we were in coherence?
So the biofeedback is helpful. The techniques are really standalone and you can practice those without the biofeedback. Now, for teens, sometimes gadgets are really helpful and
Mm,
apps on their phone, and it gives them concrete evidence. The stick to itness that's required to actually get the practice really does need some handholding, perhaps some integration into real life. Because if you said to a teen, you just need to practice 5 minutes twice a day, they would say, I don't have any time. My days are full.
mhm,
So when I'm working with people, I help them weave these practices into their existing day without having them feel like, oh, something else to do.
mhm. Well, can you teach a simple technique to us and then also tell us how it might be weaved into our regular day?
Hmm. So the quick coherence is really the foundation of all of the HeartMath techniques. There are a series that help us tap into intuition, strengthen communication, a number of things, find ease in chaos. And so, but the quick coherence is really one that, because it says quick, it means that when things are happening around us, we can either stop the chaos that we're feeling, or maybe we're actually just going to build some more energy in our battery. And so the quick coherence has 3 steps, and I'll tell you what they are first, and then we'll walk through them. So the first one is we focus our attention in the area of our heart. And so for some people that may feel a little bit peculiar or odd. And one of the things they can do that just keeps reminding them is just place their hand over their heart and just feel their chest moving up and down. The second step is we imagine that our breath is flowing in and out of our heart area, and we're breathing in and out through our nose, a little bit slower, a little bit deeper. And then the third step is a feeling of appreciation, ease, love. So I usually, when I'm working with people, I would encourage them to think about an experience they had, a place they visited, a pet. I usually steer them away from people because people sometimes have wobbles.
Mhm.
And we want that feeling of appreciation to be a reflex, to be very easy for them to actually quickly refer to. So, are you ready?
Mhm.
Okay. So, the first step, and the great thing about the quick coherence is you can do it with your eyes open or eyes closed. So, I have people who can do it while they're driving, while they're walking the dog. People do it at bedtime. There's no end to the options, and we'll talk about how we can weave that in after. So we've focused our attention in the area of our heart. You're going to imagine that your breath is flowing in and out of your heart area. You breathe a little bit slower and a little bit deeper. So heart focus, heart breath, breathing in and out through your heart area. A little bit slower, a little bit deeper. And if during this busy day there's a thought that pops into your head, just imagine that you have a feather. You're going to just tap it, allow that thought to pass, and bring your attention again back to your heart and your breath. So, heart focus, heart breath. And on the next out breath, I want you to feel that feeling of appreciation. So, heart focus, heart breath, heart appreciation. Feeling into that experience, that pet, that place. So, heart focus, heart breath, heart appreciation.
Mhm.
So, what did you notice?
Well, I feel definitely calmer, and it feels light, kind of floaty in a way. Um, and I'm always trying to teach teens things that they can do maybe in the classroom, because many kids who have anxiety want to leave the things
Mm,
that are making them feel anxious, but leaving a classroom then puts you behind for knowing what's going on in the classroom, and then some of my clients don't even wanna go to school, period, because they don't want to go deal with that, and I'm always trying to find things that they can do while they're still sitting in the classroom. Like, you don't have to leave the room to do something, and this is something that they could do while they were sitting there. Maybe they have test anxiety, or maybe just the classroom is a little bit chaotic. Because unfortunately, educators come in all forms, and some are amazing at classroom management or whatever, and some are not, or, sometimes you just have a certain group of kids in a room that are pretty rambunctious together, and that's can be, off-putting to some of my clients, but having something where they can use this at their desk and still be staying in the room or going to school would be so amazing.
And They can practice and no one even knows they're practicing. That's the
Right.
magic. That's the
Mhm.
magic. The other interesting thing is if they have test anxiety, so practicing coherence before tests and exams actually has been proven that the outcome and the scores that these students achieve actually went up
Mhm.
because being in coherence creates that clarity of thought, takes away all the busyness that happens to be going on in the mind.
Yes. Well, and with my clients, when you're in anxiety or panic, part of your brain shuts down. And so then if you're there and then you're trying to take a test and the kids will say, "Well, I can't remember what I studied." Well, that's because part of your brain is not working correctly. And so being in this coherence, calm space can open up their brain for all the parts to work, which is exactly, what they want and what their parents want as well. Now, you work with probably all different ages,
Mhm.
from young people to adults, and that's what I love about what I do too, is that even though I'm just working with teens and their parents, the way that you manage anxiety can be done the same whether you're, a toddler. They have to be told different things because they're of their life experience, but the same things can work no matter what age you are. So you probably find that in your work too, that these practices and techniques, you can find ways for all ages and all situations for this to work.
Interesting enough, I had a call with a group of people who were training to be working in long term care. And one of the moms said, she finds it hard to practice at night. And so I asked her what she did in the evening, and she said, well, I put my two children to bed. They're 4 and 6. And what I said to her was, she said, well, I sit on the bed with them before they go to sleep. And I said, well, that's a perfect time for all three of you to practice.
Mm.
And if you can start with a 4 and a 6-year-old, energetically, everybody feels better after having practiced it. And I know from experience, my own 6-year-old granddaughter, that she looks forward to that feeling at bedtime when she and I practice. And so, it's a question of how do you weave this into your daily
Mhm.
life? I also often, for people who say there's no time, I say to them, okay, so today is Wednesday and you have your cell phone, and lo and behold, it's out of battery. Would you say, okay, I'll just wait till Saturday to plug that in? And the answer, of course, is no. And
Mhm.
so that's the same level of priority that we need to give to self regulation.
Mhm.
Fortunately, it doesn't take very long, and
Yeah.
we can have our battery recharged. We might need to leave our cell phone there for an hour, but we're not talking that long.
Mm-mm. No, that was just such a quick thing, and yet I did feel so much better, and, even though I've done a ton of these interviews, I always get nervous ahead of time, so, there's a tension in being nervous before you get started, and it's nice to that would be a great practice to do right before I get on these calls, to just feel,
Mhm.
more in tune with myself and just feel and I'm always appreciative of the calls, the recordings or whether they're, consults or, planning sessions with people because, I love connecting with people. And this is just, when I was thinking about what I was appreciating during the technique, I was thinking, I appreciate that I have the opportunity to meet so many people in my podcast and that I'm getting to know another person that I didn't know before. And, I do appreciate that so much. And everyone can find things. I liked that you said you talk a lot about places and pets instead of people. And I think that's probably a good idea because yeah, the pets are just, they're just unconditional love all the time. And, a place is a neutral, but can be beautiful or peaceful or calming. So I hadn't really thought about that before. So what
Mm.
would you want parents to take from this? Like, what is something that they can do right away? This technique for sure, but what should they be thinking about doing? And then also how they can find you or talk to you if they'd like to.
So we know that if parents are in coherence, their children, their teens will behave differently. And I'm forever reminded of a nurse who said to me, I don't have anything left to give at the end of the day. And so she said, when I get home, my children are difficult, they're arguing, they're hungry, they have homework to do. And so I suggested to her that when she arrived home, she should sit in her car for 5 minutes and practice before she went in the house. So the week
Mm,
later, she comes back to the group and she says, "You're not going to believe this." She said, "My children have changed." No.
mm,
How she showed up energetically and how she was able to reset before her evening is really what they were experiencing. So, in these situations where we have people around us who are anxious, it's our job to be as solid and as coherent as we possibly can be and bring our best game and then think about how do we help move the needle for them.
mhm. Oh, I love that. I remember telling a teen one time when I was still in school counseling, they always complain, "This teacher's always mad, they're just yelling at us all the time. I don't like them. I'm always getting in trouble. I'm always getting kicked out of this class, whatever." And I said, the next time you go in there, I want you to think about all the stuff you love about the class. And, he didn't have a whole lot of a long list of things, but, what is good about it? Your friends in there. You like that particular desk. Maybe something that you learn in that class you enjoy. Maybe there's a smell in the class that you like better than in another class or whatever. We just talked about what are some things that you like, and just think about those things. And don't think about that the teacher's going to yell at everyone, and don't think about how you're going to get in trouble. And that changing of how they came into the room, because
Mhm.
they were looking for the good, they were trying to think of the things that they enjoyed about the room instead of I hate this teacher, I'm going to get in trouble, and it really did. It showed them that how you show up, how you arrive at something is part of what makes things happen or not happen. And it was fun to watch that. So I could see, as a parent, if you're going into your house calm, it's going to be
Mhm.
different than if you go into your house already mad at everybody, which I
Well,
think people do.
and we accumulate experiences throughout the day. Some are ones that would be positive and some that might not be. And if we haven't purposely reset, the energy of those experiences gets felt by those that we bump up against.
Mm. I think that this would be such a good thing to teach to teachers and students and schools. Do you ever work with schools?
I haven't. Well, yes, I have. I've presented to a middle school, and you're right. It's one of those things that if teachers were to take 30 seconds, a minute at the beginning of the day and practice this technique with their kids,
Mhm.
I think they would reap benefits far beyond any resistance that they might bump up against with,
Mhm.
the odd one who thinks it's a little silly. So no,
Mhm.
schools and teachers would benefit, and teachers for sure because they are experiencing all kinds of challenges all day long.
Yes.
And so, if they have a challenging experience and then they move on to the next class, if somebody happens to maybe react or respond in a particular way, and it reminds them of the previous situation. Their subconscious is ready and willing and able to say, here we go again.
Mhm.
And guess what? The person in front of them may get treated with the experience of the previous character, and it wasn't warranted, or
Mhm.
it's just a very different situation.
Yes, and I have seen that before. I talk to educators a lot about, you can't regulate kids from a dysregulated state. Like you have to be regulated as well. And this would be a way to regulate so that you can then be better at helping kids get regulated. And I've been talking more and more about like every transition that you have in school. If you're in an elementary school where you're the teacher all day, you still have transitions in between. Okay, now we're going to get out our math books, or now we're going to do reading, or now we're going to go to the music class, or whatever. And I think that they should be taking this couple minutes every time. Okay, we're transitioning. Let's do, our whatever they would call it, our transitioning technique. We're going to get ready for the next phase of whatever we're doing. And then in high school, it would be so easy to just do it bell to bell. So when the bell rings and the kids leave and go to the next class, okay, when we get settled in our class, let's get centered and into what we're doing here in this class, and then let's get started. Because sometimes it's hard to get kids to settle down, to get started on a class, and they only have so many minutes. So if you could get everybody in their best learning space before you got the class started, you would get so much more done than, getting it started and then, oh, you sit down and you be quiet and you do this other stuff. And we just don't spend enough time on regulating
So
people.
this group of adults that are training to be employees in long-term care, I actually last week just created 3 videos for them. One that is they're less than 2 minutes long, and they practice it first thing in the morning. One that they practice at lunchtime,
Mm,
so it sets the tone for their afternoon. And the third one is at the end of the day, so that whatever they're experiencing, they can do that reset before they move on to the next transition. So
mm.
if you could do 30 seconds or a minute for each class, bonus. But there are ways that you can achieve huge results with a very small time investment.
Yeah. And when you were talking about parents doing it with their kids, I've told teachers to do it with the students because they need it for themselves as well as the kids needing it to get ready for the class. So I love that so much. Tell us how we can get a hold of you. If there are parents or educators or anyone that's wanting to connect with you, where do they go to find you?
So I have a website, and my website is www.barbfletcher.com. And I'm happy to have conversations with anybody. There's a way there that you can book a call, and we can chat about what stress looks like for you and if any of these tools might be a good fit. I'm also on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. And so I think that you'll have all the links in the show notes.
Yes, and I'm gonna put those there so that people can just click on them and go. I love that whenever I listen to podcasts, I always go to the show notes so I can find their guest and, connect with them and follow them
Mhm.
because, I've met so many people that way too. So, well, Barb, thank you so much for being with us. This is so helpful, and I love just the simpleness of it because I think people are overwhelmed right now. Kids are overwhelmed, parents
Mhm.
are overwhelmed, educators are overwhelmed. And this is just such a simple thing that we can do that can change so much. And we just need a lot more of those things and people like you in the world helping us with that. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Mhm.